What's up, everybody? Before you get into today's episode of Cosigns and Tangents, I just have to shout out Anchor because it is by far the easiest way to start and create your own podcast. So let me explain. One, it is free. Also, there are several tools that you can use to record and edit your podcast right from your phone and your computer. Also, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many, many more. And you can make money by doing your podcast with no minimum listenership. Ain't that awesome? And you have everything at your fingertips. It is so easy. So, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started now. What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Say No Wind. I may be your fro. Oh, I said that wrong. I may be your friend. I may be your foe. I don't know, but all I know is I am so excited to be back with you all. I have another amazing guest. We have Gerald on the line with us, and I was so excited. I was going through your posts, and you just popped up, and I'm like, "You want to be on my podcast?" And you're like, "Absolutely," and I'm like, "Oh, let's go."
Yes.
Can you just go ahead and just introduce yourself to our audience, and we'll just jump into it. Let's just talk. Let's gab. Let's catch up.
Yeah, well, as you said, my name is Garrell Woods. I am a legendary father of the House of Trinity, founder of the Black Rainbow Movement, first of my name, King of the Marine, King of the Andales, and first man, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, Protector of the Realm, Khaleesi of the Grass Sea, uh, and Mother of Dragons. Um,
I love it.
but yeah, so I'm excited to be a part of this. Me and my sister used to actually run a podcast, but as you are seeing, sometimes it's hard to maintain keeping it up when you've got your regular life and you're trying to pay these bills, and it's like hard out here for everybody right now. So I'm
Mhm.
glad that you're putting your voice out there and staying consistent.
Well, I appreciate you so much for saying that because it's a struggle. It is because the main job, as I was telling you offline, I work nights and I work 12-hour shifts. And so I literally sent you that message like, can I get your email? And passed completely out. So I appreciate your flexibility and your praise. So tell me more. Like, I didn't know you had a house. Like, that's awesome. So I know
Oh
that you
yeah.
are in the ballroom scene. I feel like you brought the ballroom scene to Chattanooga. Am I mistaken? Or that's to me, you put it on
Um,
notice. I don't know.
you're not mistaken. I
Okay.
definitely, of course, can't take ownership to ballroom as a whole, but
Of course.
I am did bring the first ball to this area to Chattanooga. When I was still running or working with Tennessee Valley Pride, I was working as the community liaison, and during that time, I kind of leveraged that organization to bring the very first ball to Chat. We had a great time, and I've been working in conjunction with DC Theater to continue doing that. We've done three so far,
Mhm.
and the fourth is coming up pretty soon. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. And part of when I mentioned earlier, Black Rainbow Movement, part of reason I founded that was to try to have a organization that we can sort of use as a hub to continue that type of programming. Because what I've noticed is that there's a lot of there are a lot of organizations, spaces, and things that are being done for people of color. There are a lot of organizations, spaces, and things being done for queer people, but those that fall in the intersection of that are
Mhm.
severely underserved.
Yes.
And ballroom is literally a shining beacon to the beauty that comes out of from people that live in that intersection. As it was trans women of color that started ballroom as a whole, and it really was a hub for that side of the queer community that was too queer for their for their family and for their cultural group,
Mhm.
and to colored for the queer group,
Right. It's
So
just that, yeah.
yeah. So they created that space in the middle. So this is that I am the first one to bring it. And from what I hear, someone else is about to throw one of their own in the area too. So I'm excited about that. I am definitely
Okay.
loving that people are feeling inspired and wanting to take on perpetuating that.
And they say mimicry is the most the best form of flattery, I guess. So I'm glad that you brought that down and you're making spaces for other people of color and queer people to have these spaces in Chattanooga because it's such a small town. So for those who don't know, you're in Chattanooga and it's a small Tennessee town, but it's actually like it's known, but it's still a small town to me. So it does not have the biggest, I don't feel like it has the biggest queer of color scene. So I'm glad that you brought that here, and I'm looking forward to definitely coming to one because I don't know, I was introduced to ballroom just from snippets on Instagram, but then I finally saw like a full show dedicated to it was Legendary on HBO, which
Hmm.
boo to them. They're canceling all the shows. I we need to pick these up somehow. um,
So yeah, the thing about that, and I've got a strong opinion about that in particular
let's go.
because I've noticed that it's not just uh, um, Legendary, as you said, they're canceling all the shows. Anything that seems to have anything to do with queerness, especially queer people of color, is being erased off of HBO. And I
Yeah.
sat there and I said, let me take a look into seeing like what's going on. Is it possible that something has shifted or changed over at HBO that has made this happen? And I found out that Cassie Bloys, that's Seybloys, is the new I think president of HBO Max, and under their leadership, all of these shows are not just getting canceled but completely removed from the platform. Um,
Yes, and it's taken away from them actually the people in it to actually make money, right?
Exactly. It's just like the even if you were going to cancel the show, you would still leave it up. Like Netflix cancels a lot of their shows, but they still leave them up there for rewatch, so that people
Hmm.
who enjoyed them can go and relive those shows if they choose to, and they're just a part of their back catalog. They've completely removed Legendary from the platform. They're
I
completely,
didn't know that.
or they're going to, and they
Okay.
completely removed. There's another show called Generation that featured the brilliant talent of Justice Smith, and they took that one completely off the platform. I went to go take a look at it just to see, and my friend he read the writing on the wall. He told me my friend Samaj, shout out to him, Samaj Journey. He's
What's up?
he's a black queer author. One of the people who helped spur me forward to publish my first book called F the Apocalypse, which you can look it up at ftheapocalypse.com.
Mhm.
Um, that
It will be in the bio.
right. He read the writing on the wall and said that that Legendary was soon going to be canceled, and we're just starting to notice like this is just an attack on content that depicts a queerness, or especially if these are queer people of color. Like Justice Smith,
Hmm.
is biracial. Actually, gay man in real life, and played this amazing character named Chester in that show, who really just stole the show with his performance, honestly. And I want to go back and relive that show and that performance just to find out it had been completely erased from the platform. However,
Hmm.
Tubi, hi, come on, Tubi,
Right.
is going to
I
go
was
ahead.
just about to let you know. I was hoping to surprise you. I was like, it's on Tubi. Because I was
However,
like, I need to watch this. Uh-huh.
Tubi said let's snatch that on up because y'all doing too much. So
Right.
Tubi definitely seem like they're creating space for people like myself, and for those films and those stories. Like Secret Society, was on Tubi, and was able to kind of like spread to a lot of different people for that. So I think it's brilliant. But yeah, like it's HBO's got new leadership, and yeah, he's cleaning house. He said he
Yeah.
don't want no rainbows. He don't want no purses. He don't want no acrylics in his stuff.
Oh my gosh. And that's so crazy. And I hate that because I feel like in the last, since what, 2016, well, forever they've been trying to erase people of color. And the one thing I cannot stand about our community is sometimes we fall into that trap of wanting to erase queer people of color from the
Mm-hmm.
narrative. And I know that I I feel like that's also a product of the patriarchy, white supremacy, but we cannot erase we cannot and should not erase the things that the queer community has done for our community, because it's not like it's a separate community. It's that, like you said, the intersectionality that we need to recognize and praise within our community and just fight for it. Um,
I mean,
'Cause
true. I
mhm.
mean, it's been my experience
Yeah.
coming up when I was younger that I honestly, I mean, yeah, okay. Is there some sort of privilege that comes with queerness? You know what? I mean, it's been my experience that yes, there is.
Mhm.
There is a benefit of the doubt that Black men are usually denied, but I'm going to be given that benefit of the doubt because if my queerness is visible or if
Mhm.
people are aware of it, then all immediately I become less harmful. I become less of
Mhm.
a threat. I become
Mhm.
more trustworthy because my queerness somehow makes me more acceptable in, at least white society. As I
Mhm.
was coming up, a lot of my best close friends were our Caucasian brothers and sisters because they were way more accepting and open about my queerness than my Black friends were. Like in my Black communities, like my queerness could be a death sentence. Like
Yeah.
it was that crucial.
Yeah.
Growing up in the '90s. So
Mhm.
like the whites, they accepted me for who I was, thought I was cool for who I was, but little did I know at the time I was being fetishized. you know,
Oh, okay. I was
I
going to
was
ask. I was like, why do you think that? Okay, the
yeah, because I was
fetishization.
being I was being fetishized. I was exotic. I
Mm.
was Black, so I had that sort of cool edge to myself. But because my queerness made my Blackness softer and more approachable,
Mm.
and the fact that Blackness and queerness all just were seen to be like vinegar and oil. I mean water and oil. It's possible it didn't mix in most people's minds. I was a sort of exotic and unique thing,
Mm.
that they could kind of parade around and this is my gay Black
You,
friend.
oh, so you the gay BF or the gay GBF or GBF
Uh,
or whatever.
yeah, the
My gay.
black the BGBF, the Black GBF. Yeah.
Right, right. Oh, that's interesting. Because I know there was always in our time, because I think we're about around the same age, that it was always either joked about but never accepted, or it was just not a good way to treat people. It was more like an object instead of a person. Like we
Yeah.
didn't know how to treat people.
And honestly, wasn't it was something that we just really didn't discuss.
Mm.
If we did, our version of acceptance was silence. That
Yeah,
we just don't talk about that. We
we
don't
just
talk about that. Oh, we pretend like, girl. Now you know that auntie that's been coming with that same quote quote roommate for the past 30 years to every barbecue is not no dang roommate. That's her wife, y'all. Like, except that they've literally adopted 3 kids that are running around here. Who y'all? What do y'all think is going on? you know,
it's
it's
that ignorance bliss, or
yeah, ignorance is blessing. We just don't talk about it. We just pretend like it's not there. You
right.
know.
And
Um,
not to sound what's that word, stereotypical, but not but silence is violence when it comes to feeling accepted and seen, because it's the erasure, because
mhm.
you're it's like you're not accepting, you're just being tolerant, and nobody wants to be just tolerated. You want to be
Right.
loved and accepted. And what have you do you feel like we're definitely in a better path, or do you feel like it's just being more, it's more regressive? Because
Um,
tell it, say it.
if you gotta do
Tell
more than just, you're gonna have to do the last thing. I'm sorry, no,
No,
I
don't
love
ever
the original. I
apologize.
love the original version. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, but because Brownstone did that. But what was I gonna say? Or
Mm,
these are things I talk about in private, and I think I'm going to choose this opportunity in your platform to be willing to say it out loud.
let's go.
And we're you and I are both Black people, and one thing we have to understand is we are making a lot of progress,
Hmm.
but there still are a lot of very backwards ideals and ideologies that are rearing their ugly head as of late on TikTok, on these
Ugh.
podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of people that are coming up in opposition and combating against that, but we're not really getting to the root of and talking about some of the subtleties in which that we perpetrate a lot of this violence against ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's
Now,
talk about it. Cause it pissed
uh,
me off.
right, okay, so as a black gay man,
Mm-hmm.
I know sometimes it feels like, yeah, well, it's usually a lot. I always usually advise for us to kind of like speak to our own demographic, try to hold ourselves, the people who look and live the experiences we do accountable.
Mm-hmm.
But in this one, I'm gonna have to speak to women, my black women, because this is a perspective that y'all
We.
probably aren't aware of. When it comes to gay men,
Mm-hmm.
y'all love us until you get mad.
Mm.
And when you get mad, that F word comes slipping out your mouth a little bit too slick and too quick.
Mm-hmm.
Black women, why is it always you that's got to point out, that's a man, that's a man, she trans, that's a man. It's always like literally everyone else might think it. Some people might not even think about it, but it's going to be that black girl that's going to point that out and say, "Hey, that's a man." Why is it that? Why is it you that? Because I'm starting to see in my even in younger the interaction with the younger people that young boys, young black men are way more understanding and accepting of other gay, men being around them and gay boys being
Mm.
around them. They're a lot more understanding and accepting of it now. They even have some
Mm.
of their best of friends will be gay. But the problem comes in when the girls get involved and the girls say, "Oh, why are you hanging out with him?
Mm.
Well, you must be this, he must be that." I was telling a friend a story the other day about how I used to have a friend back at CCA when I went to Chattanooga Center for Creative Arts. His name was Marvin, and Marvin was really, he was the hot black kid with the dreads. He sang and did gospel, and he also did rap and stuff like that too. All the girls liked him. He was a vocal major, you know. But he and I connected over music. He would we would meet on lunchtime in Mr. Lefford's room, and he would play me whatever track he was working on and get my opinion on it or my critiques of it. We clicked. It didn't matter that I was gay or that he was straight. Like it was just that we were connected over the music, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one day we had a concert that was off campus. So he and I ended up having to wait for rides. And while we were waiting, Miss Calloway's like rehearsing 7 different ensembles because that's how many she directed at the school at the time. I don't know how that woman did it. And while the women's ensemble is being worked on, Marvin says to me, "Hey, so I used to live in this area nearby. They're gonna be working for a while. I want to go and explore my old neighborhood. Come walk with me." Sure, why not? Right? So he and I, we go walk to his old neighborhood. He sees some people he recognizes. They kind of reminisce and stuff like that. Tell him who's there, who's gone, who moved away, all that good stuff. Um, and then after about maybe it probably took us about 45 minutes all together to get there and have the experience to come back, you know. And by the time we came back, we walked through the doors and we hear giggling on the stage because the girls are on the stage, so they have a vantage point of the entire auditorium. So they see that we left together and they see that we
Mm.
came back in
Oh
together.
Lord. Yeah, I know
Right.
where. Yeah. Okay.
So later on, I, speak to one of the girls. I go to give her a hug, and she literally pushes me off of her and
What?
goes, "Ew, what did you and Marvin do?" I was like, "Are you serious?
Oh my
Are
gosh.
you serious, girl? Like, you don't know that boy is straight as an arrow. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing going on there but the rent, okay?"
Not the print. Okay. Yeah.
Nothing going on there but some grades, okay? The academia. And so, but ever since that interaction and the way that the girls treated him, I've started to notice that he didn't talk to me as much anymore after that. We didn't
Cause
meet
it's.
during lunch anymore to go over music. None of that.
Oh
Our
man.
relationship changed because
Mm-hmm.
these girls just couldn't fathom the idea. But also, ladies, I don't necessarily blame this on you all because I recognize that misogyny has taught women to see each other as competition, and they've
Yeah.
taught them to see anyone that is a competitor for male affection as competition as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, men, like the gay boys are no threat at first until you see, one of your friends' boys looking at them too much or hanging around too much.
Hmm.
And then once the situation becomes a threat, then that doctrine kicks in that you have to defend yourself. You have to get the man. And even though we're doing a lot of work to break those cycles, I'm so glad that a lot of women are finding the understanding that you know you don't need a man. Yeah, we realize
Hmm.
that now. And now, society, we don't need a man. Used to be back in the day when people did need a man. It was because it was illegal for you to own property. It was illegal
Right.
for you to have a bank account. You couldn't sustain yourself if you
And
didn't have a man.
and a lot of people don't realize like women didn't have the ability to get their own bank accounts until like the 60s or 70s. And then
Right.
so and thing is I get you and I hear it, and because I actually agree there is a toxicity in women that is not talked about, which I'm glad you did mention that it's ingrained in us. Like the behaviors are ingrained in us from the beginning of society, where we were taught that women were below men, but then even lower, black people were below people. And then so
Right.
there's like we're always
And if
fighting.
women below men and black people are below people, then black women are what?
Right, exactly. And that's why I think there is like one of my favorite podcasters, and I think she's pretty famous. I didn't hear about her until I started listening to this podcast called the See the Thing Is, and her name is Blue Toulouseman.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about how black women who have issues with black gay men are being the white person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's like with as a black woman we had to always carve out a lane, as because we're not considered, we're low because we're women, and then we're low because we're black, and then we're just right under the hierarchy.
Right.
And then so when we find a person to be mean to, because we've been mean to and we have not had any upper ground, we have always had to like crawl, or I'm not trying to throw us like, what I'm trying to say, like we've
No, I'm
had to
saying
always fight.
what you're saying is
Yeah.
the abused becomes the abuser.
Abuser. Thank you, exactly. And
And in this
so we
situation, we found a community, and I never thought about this perspective, but wow, in
mhm,
this situation, y'all have found a community that literally that people look down on less than you. It's
right.
like what?
What?
Finally, we're not at the bottom of the totem pole.
Mhm.
Finally,
Mhm.
it's like because the black gay like men, but then even then you don't what a lot of women don't realize, our black women don't realize is that demonization of gay men, the subjugation of gay men is a part of misogyny.
Mhm.
They view men wanting to be with other men as being feminine, and that's why they deserve less, and that's why they're less than. And you uh, actively acting against gay people is basically you co-signing, yes, women are less than, yes, women aren't less are less deserving, and femininity needs to be punished.
Mhm.
That's
And it's so weird because people blame femininity. Like you find black men blaming you don't want to be feminine, and then we're doing the same thing and we're demonizing femininity. But thing is, if you don't like it in somebody else, then why do you like it in yourself? Like why is it okay? You're demonizing attributes or adjectives that are just normal adjectives. Like I get tired, since we're kind of going into that masculine and feminine thing. I hate those terms because those are just blanket phrases
mhm.
that holds adjectives that all people can have inside them.
Right.
you know?
Well, and honestly, the true in because we're like we so much of us and so many things have been indoctrinated into us that keep
Ugh.
us from looking deeper.
Right.
Like I'm Lord,
That
am I
white
gonna go there?
supremacy got a chokehold on us,
Am I
and I'm
gonna go
tired.
there? Am I gonna go there? Yeah, I'm
Let's
going there.
go.
Okay, so
It's
like
Friday, honey.
for instance, not necessarily the content of the religion, but the way we practice religion has taught us not to look deeper. They're like, don't look deeper, don't think too much, don't read too much because you might learn too much, and then we can't control you as much.
Exactly, because it comes from even with slavery. They didn't even give us the whole Bible.
And we couldn't read it anyway.
Right. It was just a symbol of some a symbolic thing to keep us down and make it seem okay that we are in this position and that they are over this position over us. And that's because I've been working on a lot of decolonization of my own religion, my own relationship with God, my own my own relationship with my blackness, my relationship with my body, because a lot of this stems from a hierarchical need to subjugate people.
Right.
That comes from also white supremacy. Like all this shit is literally because we deemed whiteness as the picture that we
The
all want
default.
to get to.
It's the default.
It's the default. It's the default. Exactly. It's the default humanity. It's like even like I was telling somebody on TikTok, I was like, even like our AIs default to whiteness.
Right.
Even the filters default to whiteness. Everything defaults to whiteness, and blackness is still and
It's
even in our own community, we have a hard time seeing humanity in each other. And that is something like I agree that that's part of the problem, but we have to let it go because it's not serving us. It's not serving white people. It's serving white men who are heterosexual presenting, but it's not serving any of us in the capacity that we wanted to.
the way that this system and the society we live in right now, this white supremacist dominated system we live in right now, is set up. The people at the top of the food chain are white, rich, Protestant, cisgender, straight males.
Correct. Yep.
And the further you get away from that description, if you are a uh, rich Protestant, cisgender, straight, white woman, see, you've already stepped down a rung.
Yep. Yep.
If you are a cisgender, white, straight male who is poor, you drop down a few rungs.
Because
Okay.
white people don't like poor white people anyway.
No, they don't. They don't, and it's funny because the poor white people are the loudest when it comes to anti-blackness, racism, and I was like, all that is by design too.
Yep.
This is ultimately not even because y'all. It's not even about. Wasn't even about white and black. It was about rich and poor. The Europeans came in. They took like slaves, and they had your indentured servants, and they had the slaves too, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the slaves and indentured service were looking at each other one day and said, "Man, can I curse?"
Yeah.
Oh,
Of course.
man, fuck this shit. And they overthrew and they overthrew the city and burned, and they burned a lot of, shit down, right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these rebellions happened numerously, but historians or history, they tried to erase that. So they didn't want us to know that white people, poor white people, and black people have band together and seen results. But the problem was they were able to flip that on its head by creating that division. They created race so that the
Mm-hmm.
poor white people could feel like they were just a little bit better than them other ones.
Exactly.
They elevated them just slightly.
Just
Yeah,
slightly.
you don't get us. You don't get a piece of the pie. You
Mm-hmm.
don't get this, but but you're like me. You're like me. No, no, no. Don't look at that house. Don't look at that money. Don't look at you don't get that. But you could. You could, if you worked hard enough,
Mm-hmm.
just like me, you will be able to inherit one day all of this stuff too. Because I inherited it. But you got to work hard.
Yeah.
You see
But
the-
the one thing that gets me, ooh, you okay? Bless you.
Yep. Mhm.
The one thing that gets me about our community is that we divide ourselves into so many categories, right?
Mhm.
And so we've got the light skinned blacks, the dark skinned blacks, we got the gay blacks, the gay female blacks. But thing is, what white people did is that like you said, we was like, oh, let's instead of like dividing poor whites, let's bring all the whites together. I don't care if they're Polish white, Irish white, Jewish white. We're gonna bring all the white people together and give them this level of superiority because we're gonna accept them into this group that we will not allow Black people in.
Right.
And
Now,
then
mind you, they do have divisions amongst themselves as
they
well.
do, they do
But
that.
they
Yeah,
created, with the one thing that they all share is that phenotype, because
yep,
racism is by phenotype. It's not
exactly.
necessarily by where you come from, where
Hmm.
from your origin. It's about what do you look like. When I look at you, do you
Yep,
carry certain attributes that I perceive as black or brown or Hispanic or Latinx, or do you look white? So those people that look white are given this one big advantage. It's called the
yep,
benefit of the doubt.
exactly. And they're giving that opportunity to, because you can't tell a poor person all the time. If
Mm-hmm.
because you can tell, like, because well, you got rich people who dress like homeless people now anyway, but you see that
Right.
one thing. I was like, okay, you're light skinned or you're white, so you're cool. I'm gonna give you that opportunity to benefit of the doubt. But with us in our community, because we have that white supremacy on that chokehold, and we keep thinning out our community because we refuse to like each other because of your proximity to whiteness or your proximity to being gay. No, we should just all be together. And then we try to reach out to other communities, but then sometimes those communities get accepted into the white community, i.e., the ideal. Because we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there. The ideal, the ideal Asian American. Because
Mm-hmm.
we had a great relationship with Asian people, Jewish people, all the people who were marginalized. But then when they realized we were gaining power and numbers, they kept making these. They were like they made it easier for the other marginalized community to come in. They like,
And
well,
then yeah, and then they started seeing that then those communities were like, yeah, we're not, yeah, we can't keep slumming it down there with y'all. Y'all know how hard it is. Like we finally got our
uh-huh,
seat at the table. And
right,
and rather than standing with, it's difficult.
yep,
Yeah.
yep, and again that white supremacy chokehold. And I just wish we would just see it in ourselves and just stop fighting within, even within the diaspora, like within Africa. Like we be fighting Africans. We get mad at Africans and Africans get mad at us. But to me, that's still a distraction. That's a lie because every time I talk to a person who is from Africa, who is from a different country in Africa, they're like, we love Black people. I don't know where y'all get this from. And
Yeah, that's a
it's
woman on TikTok. She literally, and her
yes.
video went viral. And she said, she said, this is from, she said, this is from, I'm calling, making this message from Africa right now. I
Mm-hmm.
want you all to know, Black people, she said that they, it was in the best interest of colonizers for them to believe, for make you believe that we don't like you, that we don't want you
Yep.
here, that we have issues with you, and we don't. We love you. She said, "We love you. Come home." She said,
Yep. I thought it
"She said,
that
come
snippet.
home."
I was like, I knew it.
Yeah, come home. I mentioned that there is, like there's so much, love here for you all. We represent. We realize that you all are our stolen brothers and sisters. We love you.
Yep.
She said it
Yep.
was in their best interest to make them believe that y'all were that we don't like you or that there's something. No, we love you. Please, like there's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
She said the only problem we do have, he says, when y'all make fun of our accents or because when y'all impart negative qualities onto us or say that we're stupid or primitive because we're African. We don't. She said that we don't like. But
Right.
other than that, they're like, we love you.
Exactly. And it's all control, it's all manipulation. Because if we find commonality, one within ourselves, and stop fighting within ourselves and hold each other accountable. But I think that's also, I'm jumping because, this podcast is co-sides and tangents, but I know you can follow me. We good.
Right.
But that's part of, because I feel like if they can control, because we are the trendsetters as the country. We created everything. We created their music. They patent their early
Their
theater song
fashion, their
songbooks,
styles, their music,
everything. But
dance.
if we give that all back to our country, to our continent of origin, America would have not a motherfucking thing. And they keep us relegated here. You keep the infighting because if we all leave, they ain't gonna have shit to do but play cornhole. Even though I love cornhole, it's one of my favorite games.
And they've never done anything. It was like they've never done anything with integrity. It's
Mm-hmm.
all and some people have didn't understand. They're like, oh yeah, they were able to come in and conquer all these colonies because had greater power, firepower. Yeah, wasn't nobody worried about them little bitty ass BB guns. Okay, let me tell
No.
y'all something. Them Aztecs was not worried about them BB guns. The Dora Milaje were not worried about them. Okay,
The
y'all know
old
what I'm talking
men,
about.
yeah, right. But
Yeah,
yeah,
all right. I know the woman
the
king
woman king.
was not worried about them little BB guns. Okay, the Amazons those are African female warriors. Those that later on they turned into called them the Amazons and made them Greek and whitewashed them. No, that was us. There wasn't no Diana. There wasn't no Wonder Woman. And if there was a Wonder Woman, she would be 35, 30. What is it? Was it 36, 35, 36?
She'll be in a brick house, baby. Come
A
on,
brick house,
brick
right?
house.
Right,
And
with a thick ass fro, okay. But the
mm-hmm.
thing is, um, the what really contributed to the conquest of colonizers and colonization was they nasty ass diseases. They
You
were
know I was about
sleeping in their damn.
and let me I must have to say this because we're not trying to bash all white people. Like I love white people. I have a lot of this is gonna sound real like white person. I have a lot of white friends, okay? But no, I have nothing but love for all people. I'm just holding people accountable for the things that they did.
Well,
I'm
let me say
not
something.
gonna
If
erase
you're
you.
an
Everybody
ally, if you're
tried to
an ally,
erase my history. Come on.
right, and I'm saying like if you're an ally, then you should have the cognitive capabilities and the comprehension skills to understand that when we're saying white people, we're talking about the supremacist and white movement, and that all white people, unfortunately, whether you are active or not, you are a participant or a contributor or a benefactor of that system. You can be the most down ally and be right by our side, but you still have the benefit of the doubt. If you're not by me and they don't know who you are, when you walk out in the street, they're gonna like it's. I put it like this: a friend of mine, well, an ex friend of mine, because fuck her now, but
Okay.
she put a really great thing in perspective for me once. Like she said, we tried to explain white privilege to her, and she said, "Oh, okay, I get it." She said, "So, because she was white, she's like, so if I was chasing Jarrell down the street, people would get out of their cars and help me to chase him. But if he was chasing me down the street, people would get out of their cars to stop him from chasing me.
Oh, yeah.
Without any context, they just see white
Yeah.
woman being chased by black man. He must be bad,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. He must be bad."
Yeah, he must be bad. It's like, oh, he's bad. He's not exactly because you could be chasing her because she stole your wallet. But no,
Mm-hmm.
you're again. It goes back to what we were talking about: the benefit of the doubt when it comes to a white person versus a black person, and we even do that inside our own minds. Like I remember watching the 13th, which I don't hear people talk about a lot. Like they keep acting surprised about the new Jim Crow, how the prison system is nothing but the new neo-slavery. I was like, Ava DuVernay been put us on game
Right.
when the 13th happened. Have we forgot? It's still on Netflix, y'all. That movie traumatized me. I watched it twice. I was like, I watched way too much, cried tears because I didn't realize how much the black, because they talked about how blackness, how they pull the wool over black people's eyes as well about other black people. And it
Mm-hmm.
started with the crack epidemic. It started, and then with jail systems. It's like, oh, that's a good thing. We should put up criminals even if they look like us. And now we're realizing that we've been okey doked since we even got out of slavery.
Exactly. Hell, and I mean,
Again.
hell, Michelle Alexander actually put us up on game with the book, the new Jim Crow, that
Exactly.
came out like 2010. Like
Right.
but like the thing is like, yeah, they just like everything shifted. It's not that things changed. It's just things shifted. It's like outward and blatant racism became
Hmm.
all pretty much mostly illegal. So people, stopped doing it. They changed the narrative. Rather than saying ghetto, they started saying inner city.
Yep.
Rather than saying
Or woke now. That's woke.
black folks, they started saying low income. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
I said
That's
they
a
just changed the language and stuff like that. And so,
yep.
like the language, the racism became less overt. It became more
More
covert
correct.
and became more systematic. I
Yep.
said so. It just sort of becoming permeated throughout through, throughout what we do. And it's like people are uh we do dehumanize each other is what we do.
Yeah.
Like, and I said, like a lot of times it's like people of color, black people, I always say, do y'all not understand that like white people literally look at you and think some white people look at you and don't think that you have the same rich, full experience of life as they do. They think of
Mm-hmm.
you as two dimensional. You're a caricature,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Like the girl I saw a girl on TikTok went to a party, a work party. It was all white. She's wearing all white as she should because she's a member of of this crew. There were only one other black girl in the party, and she was part of the catering crew, right?
Mm.
And at one point, she said the other caterer girl walks up to her and starts talking to her. Hey, are we supposed to something? And she catches herself and says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were the other girl, right?"
Mm.
Mind you, she said these two girls do not look alike at all.
Never
And
do.
and the thing about this is not because it says because all they saw was your blackness.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see deeper than that. Once they see you as black, that's all they see. And every other black person reminds you of them. If you're a black person with a high energy personality, then you remind them just like that other high energy black person.
Mm-hmm. I had
If
the
you're
same thing at the
right, if you're a
job.
low energy black person, you remind them of the same other low energy black person that they remember.
Exact.
And it's not even like that. Like it's that the energies are the same, or that you even have some similar characteristics because you finally meet that person, and y'all like we are nothing a
Nothing
motherfucking
alike.
like.
Mm-hmm. I had the exact same situation happen with a girl that I work with, and we're still friends now. And we look similar, but not really. Like we maybe wore she wore her hair long, I wore mine in a fro, and we both wore glasses. But I swore every time, like a lot of people thought I was her and vice versa. And like I don't even work at the job no more. She said people still come in and think that she is me. I was like, what? I was like, we have been separated for 7 years from this job. And that when that happens, it makes me wonder. I was like, what do you see as a white person when you're going through life? Do you just see blotches of brown, black,
Mm-hmm.
and other
Black,
colors?
black, this is
Like,
black.
do you just see like little walking like brown sickles just walking and you just don't actually see us? But it was this other podcast I listened to. It was some woman named Liz, and she talked about she's on a podcast called Man Enough, and she's the only woman. And one of the characters is black, not characters, the host, he's like, why should a man listen to you talking about masculinity? And she talks about like helping men and just understanding why men are the way they are because of the patriarchy, whatever.
Period.
And then so she said to him, she said the same way that you know about white people is the same way I understand men, because as a marginalized person, we know them, we see them, we have to break down, it's not our enemy, but we have to see the person that could cause us harm, and we have to observe them. And she says the same thing about
It's
masculinity.
right. It's think about it. Like I said, we keep. I always use the metaphor of abuser
That's the easiest way.
and
Yeah.
yeah and abused. It's
Hmm.
like women have been historically abused by men, have been used by men systematically. They have made laws and put things in place to where men have legal authority over women, and because
And
they had that legal authority over women, and then women had no autonomy. Women had to understand, like you think about it, like when you're living in a house with an abusive parent, you learn everything about them, their
mhm,
mannerisms, what they
you
don't
know when they're
like,
gonna
what they
be.
don't like, when they're gonna blow, when they're gonna
Yep.
pop, when they're in a bad mood, how, like sometimes you start to learn, okay, like I just have they're on a rise right now, and if I do play it just right, I could diffuse it.
Exactly.
Like, and that's literally what women have to do for men all the time. I had this conversation with my uncle, like because he's I don't know, his dumb ass decided he wanted to get into Andrew Tate stuff. And I'm like, bro,
Oh
I'm gonna have to
God.
get you. I'm gonna have to get you together. So
No,
like
I
he
would not
says,
allow my brother to get into that shit either. I'm like, no.
right. So he said he said something about women having privilege because men buy them stuff. I said men buy them stuff because they're trying to fuck. That's not
Hmm.
privilege. That's literally, it's like because you want something from me. And honestly, let's talk about what privilege really is. Privilege isn't being given opportunities just because you are who you are. Privilege is being able to give opportunities. And the
Mm,
men are the one in the position to give the opportunities to these women.
exactly. And
Right.
and the
And the
thing that gets, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Hold on, no, yeah, because I was like, the one thing I really wanted to make him understand was, and also, let me tell you what privilege is. I said, the fact that you, when you leave out here right tonight and you're going to walk to your car, you do not have to even think or cross your mind, am I going to be attacked?
Mm-mm.
I said, every woman in this room, and we was in there with his sister, which is my mom, my,
Mm-hmm.
uh, my, my sister, my two of my girl cousins, my great aunt, her daughter. Well, there was several women in this room, right? And I said, I don't know a single woman. I said who has not been assaulted, not a
Mm-mm.
single one. And I told and I looked around the room. I said, see, no one's speaking up to say not me. See, every woman in this room, your family, every last one of them has
Mm.
been assaulted and taken advantage of by a man.
Mm.
But you said it got privilege.
Mm.
No, they said there ain't no privilege because that guy buys that 4 for 4, and now he thinks he's entitled to something. And
Exactly.
clearly, more often than not, they'll take it. You
Yeah.
think that's privilege, bro?
I was like, that's just because she doesn't want to get hurt.
That's because she doesn't want to get hurt.
Because it's
And
easier to say yes and to be amenable than to say no and risk the wrath of some man you don't know.
exactly,
Just being
exactly,
honest. And what gets me about that, men are complaining about the situations that were created by men. I was
right.
like, y'all made these rules, right? Y'all know y'all made these rules where women had to be an object for sexual pleasure and for your life. You made these rules. You relegated women into certain things in society. And now you're mad that we are still playing into these roles, but because we want the power, I'm like, y'all manipulated us for 400 years, for
Right.
millennia, you know. So, but thing is, but not to take away the ideas of accountability, because I wanted to kind of go back and talk about Black women and accountability, because that's one thing I've noticed. Because you talked about a trash friend as well, that I didn't realize how toxic women were
Hmm.
until I've gotten older, and I think that's one thing we have to also hold women accountable, because it's like how we blame whiteness for the situations that Black people are in. I see that, but we also still have to see what we do with the situations that whiteness put us in, if that makes sense. Like,
Hmm.
we became the abuser because we were abused. So we have to stop that. Like my thing. I was thinking about women. I'm like, what do we want? Do we want revenge or we want equality? Because I
Right.
see some women who treat men terribly. I was like, but then you cry. Oh Lord, that sounds very misogynistic. But we call out and we get upset about things. But what about the things that we do that perpetuates these negative attributes that were forced on us?
And literally, you demand the same toxic masculinity that has oppressed you when you want to
Mm-hmm.
get your back broke in, or when you want some dude to talk to you real disrespectful, but only in a way that turns you on.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, come on, like
It's
then those. Here's the thing: those types of things can be possible, but you have to allow your these men to be able to explore other avenues of their emotional health. Like they get to the point to
mm-hmm.
where they can't talk to like I said. So many men, I've said they don't get emotional. They try not to talk to. And so many girls like, well, he don't open up. I said, well, why? Well, when he does open up, the first time you get mad at him, you're gonna throw up in his face. He was crying to me like a bitch about this thing. I've
Yeah,
seen it happen. I've
I've,
seen it
I've
happen.
heard it happen too.
And
Yep.
it's like so because your man decided to try to finally be a human fucking being, you made fun of him for it and reprimanded him for having emotions, which is exactly what happened to him throughout his entire life. Black men, especially, were taught that men in the general were taught we can't have any emotion other
Right.
than happiness, but not too happy
Mm-hmm.
and anger.
Right. And you can only be happy in the service of whiteness because you got to shuck and jive.
Chuck and John, and so and then it's like or happy in the sense of I'm excited about sports, or I'm excited about this, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
but then like you can't show too much emotion, you can't show too much affection. I mean, I literally had like how many times have I heard, and I still heard, I heard these kids in McDonald's, I'm sitting in McDonald's on Highway 58. And these kids were having a conversation while I was waiting on my order, and the girl was telling them, "Oh well, you just have to understand. Like she just thought she think you cute, but she don't like you because you're too nice, and you gotta be a little mean a little bit." I said,
Oh my
"Mean,
gosh. Ugh,
sis." You're like, why do y'all want someone that's going
like,
to disrespect you?
mean.
Why do y'all want to be Krishan and Blueface? You
Oh
know,
my gosh. It's because some people don't know better. And also, you've been programmed to see that. Because, now this goes into the mental health conversation. It's all about the emotional intelligence of that person.
Mhm,
And that's to me a new subject for all of us, especially
mhm,
in the Black community. Because I remember like talking to a friend of mine, they were talking about boundaries. I was like, what is that? I didn't
mm.
understand. I didn't understand it in accountability, and I didn't understand it in context. Same thing with accountability. I kept hearing people like throwing accountability. I'd be like, but what is that? And so I had to Google it. I was like, what is it? And so when I realized the definition, I was like, okay, now this is what I want to see for people. Accountability is, one, you take ownership of the things that you did. Two, you're changing those behaviors and you really apologize for it. Not apologize how it made me feel, but apologizing for making me feel that certain way. And then changing those behaviors. So I feel like that's something that's not taught in our families, because I still have to break my brothers down and try to like, so what are you feeling? How are you feeling? Or try to like describe it for them, because they're men of the 90s, so they're Gen Xers, Gen Zers, no, Gen Xers. So you already know that energy just ain't, your
Stoic,
emotional energy is just not as strong.
right?
It's strong, but it's more focused in rage or silence, or I'm just gonna laugh this off, or I'm gonna drink about it or smoke about it.
Exactly. Rather because I'm like rather than just going, "Oh, man, if you want to cry, cry,
Right.
cry." And if you're a woman that can't seems thinks you're a man is less than a man because he's crying, that's crazy. And then also like the whole thought of like, well, I want a man that's going to be able to protect you. Protect you from what? For what? What do you need to like? What do you need to protect them for? You may be like there's police officers and well, not police officers, forget them. But there's
Right.
there's safety
Unfortunately.
systems in place for your support to protect you from outside dangers. But what are you doing? Do you plan on putting him in a situation where he has to defend you?
That's a good point. Because
Like,
I'm
what do
like,
you need protection from? You should just want love, security, and somebody that you can trust, and somebody that honors you and respects who you are, and somebody whose bullshit you can deal with. Because everybody's gonna have bullshit. You're never gonna
all,
find somebody that's gonna be completely perfect. Another thing too, the great Michelle Obama said, like, no relationship is 50-50. Like they're never gonna be 50. Sometimes you're gonna be 60, sometimes he's gonna be 40, sometimes you're gonna be 30, and he's gonna be 70. I mean, it just works that way, you know?
Mhm. But that comes down to just actually having real conversations. And again, that's not something I grew up. I grew up seeing my mom and dad talk. They fought, but they weren't like, I feel like they were kind of outliers. They were born in the 40s, but I still felt like they gave, I don't know if they gave my brothers the emotional leeway, but I feel like it wasn't emotionally suffocating. Like I felt
Right.
like we could emote. And like I've seen my dad emote, but he was drunk. But that was how the only way that they knew how to emote. Like get drunk, emote, and dance and have fun, or be angry. But luckily he was not on the latter. But I feel like with us learning how to communicate more as people, having conversations like we're doing now and not getting offended, it's just you understand where people are coming from. That way you can try to show them a way out. You know, like you came through this path, but let me show there is a way out of
Right.
the anger and the suppression of your emotions. And think is what people fail to realize, we wouldn't need to be protected if we stop hurting people.
Whoa, whoa, hala, la, 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 say, hold on, you better preach.
Right.
Come on,
If,
somebody. Have me speaking in
so
tongues.
I see you got me chills. I got chills for real. I'm like, now I can't claim that I heard that from somebody else. I wanted to because you got that feels, but still I heard that and that shook me. I was like, fuck. If
Yeah,
we
hurt
can
people, hurt
just
people.
exactly. And even we hurt people emotionally by not giving space to each other to emote, especially with Black men. Like I think, and I heard like I started hearing this, it was this guy on TikTok, and he was like, women, are you going to start holding your ain't shit friends accountable? And I was like, what's he talking about? And he talked about how there's the Black women who would have sexual relations. I'm finna go there with younger Black men.
Mm.
And we don't talk about that.
Oh
And
no,
I'm
let me
like,
tell you, like I have a friend of mine. He's straight, but he's actually also a sex worker. Like that's what he
mm,
does full time. But and he talked to me about how he pretty much was young and been taken advantage of, in an early age,
yeah,
by an older woman, and we don't talk about that. And the thing about it is, like, the idea is only men do that to people. Only men are attacking and hurting people, but
yeah,
we sit there, and we sit there, and we're so quick to look at that old that 20-year-old with that 40-year-old guy, and we're so quick to turn our nose up at that, even though that's two consenting adults. But
right.
that grown ass woman touching on your 14-year-old son, you tell him about that. Way to go, boy!
Hmm.
Like,
Because it came up with Boosie, how he to me facilitated the assault of his young was he 14?
yes, it's
And I'm just
facilitated the
like,
assault of it. Paid a sex worker to assault his child
and
so
not
that he wouldn't end up gay.
right. I'm like, honey, like if he ends up gay, oh, I I would want that before he, because you created an environment of sexual assault for that child where he does not understand yes or no. Like he didn't understand consent because you haven't created that foundation of consent for him. And that's something like I didn't realize that. I don't think our parents understood that because like they didn't come from parents who understood consent. Hell, my parents were born in the 40s, their parents were born in the 1900s.
Right.
They were two generations, if not maybe one or two generations from slavery themselves, if not sharecropping. My dad picked cotton. So
Exactly, and especially when it comes to it's and what's funny too, and I'm gonna have to clear this up for all black people that that are listening, everybody that's listening, because I used to be a preschool teacher. They asked a question one time when we were doing a training about learning how to identify with children are possibly being abused and how to report
mhm,
that, and certain things like that. And so they asked the question, try to gauge where everybody's knowledge was. They said, true or false, young men who have been molested are more likely to become, gay, as a, identify as homosexual as when they get older. And
mhm,
so they asked how many people said yes. This is a room full of maybe 40, 30, 50 some odd child care professionals,
mm,
and almost all of them raised their hand. They
mm,
said how many said no. Just me and the director of my site raised our hand and said no,
mm,
false.
mm.
And the answer, of course, was false.
Right.
It does not matter, like, whether or not you were taken advantage of as a child. It's not going to develop, affect your sexual orientation.
Exactly.
Now, it might affect how you are able to relate to sex. It might affect
Hmm.
how you're able to, how you relate to intimacy too.
Mm,
But it won't change your sexual identity. Like that's literally something that we're finding more and more. It's just something that's inherent.
yeah.
Although, and I feel like the biggest problem is that everyone thinks that someone else is getting something that they're not, and sometimes they are. Like women on the broad scale, we have to allow space for men to have the same sexual freedom that women do. And what I mean by that is
Hmm.
a woman can literally so there comes a point where where people are like surprised if a woman hasn't had a same sex experience at a certain
Right.
age. They're surprised. They're like, you ain't never? Really? Right. But with
Mm-hmm.
a guy, it's just expected that no, he's never, like, of course he hasn't never done that. So, but what? But even if he does say something, if he does, like, oh yeah, I have had that experience. All of a sudden, he's automatically it has to be gay. He has to be
Hmm.
this. But a woman can say that can have an entire relationship with another woman throughout college, and then come out the other end and be like, you know what, I'm decided. It wasn't for me. You know, but a guy can't do the same thing.
It's our fluidity is something that I feel like men should have the opportunity to be as fluid as well, because it's an experience. It's a pleasurable response to be able to have sex and be to have that pleasure. And so why can't a man experience it in the way that he sees fit, as long as it's consenting and with a person who's able to consent?
And it's not, and as long as that, and it's not even just about that. It's about the true explanation of true of themselves, how they relate to the people around them,
Mm-hmm.
and the levels with which they can connect to different expressions of humanity. Like
Yeah,
that's literally what it's
that
about.
is
It's that deep,
basically. Yeah,
you
and
know.
it feels like it's just a way. Like if a man says they had a sexual encounter with a man, it's just a way to relegate them and treat them like shit,
Right.
and that's not fair.
Right, exactly, and I feel like at the same time, on the other spectrum, women should be allowed the same sexual freedom that
Mm-hmm.
men are. And what I
Ex-
mean by that is like,
yes, yes.
a woman can literally kiss a boy
Mm.
once in high school, and she's a slut.
Oh my god,
But
I
a
didn't.
man could have sex with, and I've had sex with over 100 people, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're a god."
Mm-hmm. You a sex guy. Da 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 da. This whole lock and key bullshit that's going on these Andrew Tate podcasts and the Fresh and Fit. I'm just like, y'all are dumb. Y'all
Mm-mm.
are dumb. And it's just, why do we? I just wish we could just get rid of these old antiquated things, because it's like, I feel like, I hope this is just the last vestiges of patriarchal bullshit still just trying to
Mm-hmm.
hold on to some type of relevancy, because it's dumb. It's just no longer serving people. It's making people more is not allowing people to express their emotions, is not allowing people to express themselves sexually, or just in any way, because it's so suffocating with what it allows men and women to do.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I believe you're right. I think this is the death throes of like an extinguishing monster, an ancient monster,
Hmm.
as it slowly fades into the abyss forever. It
Right.
knows that the world always leans towards the good, and even
Hmm.
though we have to kind of be refined by a lot of these things, we're overcoming a lot of just basic tenets, which humanity. Like when we first came into existence, we had to overcome me versus us,
Hmm.
sacrificing a little bit of individual freedom so that for the betterment of a larger group and we can share resources and expand. But now we're still trying to get over us versus them, trying to see
Hmm.
that are different than us as the same as us or equal or worthy of existing. You
Hmm.
know, like the hardest part that we're coming through. But once we realize, like, if you free the most oppressed person in the room, then everybody will be free.
Oh, beautiful. And that's the main thing that I want to get for us, because the more that I decolonize and see things the way it is, one, it makes me mad. But two, it also is a very freeing thing, just to be able to see the world as it is, but see people as they are. And as people who deserve, and it's not like you earned anything. No, you deserve to feel safe, to feel loved, and to have nice things happen to you. You didn't have to earn it by doing XYZ. No, you're alive, therefore you should be treated as a person. And that's one thing I just want people to get. This is like, why are we worried about what other people are doing? As long as they're not hurting another person, place, thing, animal, child, just just chill the fuck out. Like, why are
Oh,
we just
it,
we need to feel better than people, and I don't care about that. I just want to live, be happy, and travel, eat,
mm-hmm.
fuck, and sleep, and be
Right,
safe. I don't
and
want
repeat
anything else, and repeat until the last day that I'm on this earth, and I see what was at the end of
what the
the
end gonna
what the
be.
end gonna be. And like, until then, I'm letting God, the universe, sort it out, honey. Because I don't got no time to be trying to police other people's bodies and their the things that they do. Like, it's just not right. It's
Hmm.
I'm tired of it. Let's just stop.
The simple way to put it, and I've always said it. I said this a lot. Our forefathers had it right. They had it right in the words, but not in the execution. Everyone
Mm,
has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
yes,
And if what you
yes.
do does not encroach on my right to live, and vice versa, we're
Hmm.
good. If what I
Exactly.
do does not encroach on your right to have freedom, to be free, and have liberty, and vice versa, we're good. And if my what I'm doing doesn't encroach on your right to pursue happiness as you see fit, and vice versa, then we're good. Now,
Hmm.
I don't necessarily mean having opposing doctrine, but I don't. But I mean, if as long as you're not going to courts and trying to put your doctrine into law and affecting, my ability to live my life as I see fit,
Hmm.
then we're fine.
Exactly. Because it's like, what trips me out about America in general. and I know we're almost over, but what
Mm-hmm.
trips me out about America in general is that they were like, we don't want Sharia law, but you're literally putting Christian, you're making laws based on Christian doctrine.
Right. And
What is
honestly,
that?
same thing. Truly the
It's the
same thing.
same thing. It's
Same
still,
thing.
and it's also Abrahamic
Right.
religion. It's under the same umbrella,
The
y'all.
same thing.
It's
Mm-hmm.
the same thing, just a different name.
Right.
Like,
Well, me personally, I pray to the Orishas and ancestors every
I
day.
saw that. I saw that because
That
you said you talked about the Orishas, and I was like, you know about the Orishas? I'm not really surprised at all. I
oh
haven't seen
yeah.
a lot of people talk about that on my Facebook, and so I was
Mhm.
excited to see that. And I've been wanting to get more into the
This is
African
the spirituality of our people before we were colonized.
exactly,
Like this
and
is
they
like, and honestly, I understand there's so much fear in a lot of us in
mm,
embracing another spirituality because we're taught by Christianity that we will die and go to hell, and
yeah,
that our souls will burn. But the Orishas are older than this religion. The Orishas
mm-hmm,
predate this, and they have no hell. They don't
mm,
burn us
mm,
for making mistakes, for
yeah,
living. They guide us, and if
yeah.
you listen to them, they will make sure that that your end, you're going to be, better than where you are now.
Yeah. And I do a lot. I've been doing more ancestor work. Like I have like to the people that I lost, like my father, one of my
Mhm.
friends, my aunties. And I would just talk to them and I'd be like, I know y'all got me. Just keep me calm, honey. I'm trying to get this anxiety together.
Exactly. Well, I mean, think about us. Even the understanding of our connection to the ancestors. If you really, really think about it, biologically, physiologically, your blood, the blood that courses in your veins,
Mhm.
is thousands of years old. It can be
Mm,
traced back to the very beginning,
yeah.
because think about it, like anatomy wise, how we're born. When you have a baby, you form it within the blood and flesh of yourself with the
Mm,
DNA components that were given to you by
mm,
the father or sperm giving person, you know,
yeah.
and and the same process happened for you with your mother
Mm,
and your
yeah.
mother before her and her mother before her and her mother before her. So what's the same
Mm,
thing? So what's the thing being recycled every time? The blood, the flesh. You're
yeah.
made of the recycled blood and flesh of that for everyone from back and back and back. This blood in
Mm-hmm.
you has existed for centuries, for millennia.
Linear, yeah. Did you hear about Lapita Nyong'o's that they traced her blood back to the mitochondrial Eve?
Wow, she
I
looked
was
like
like
Eve.
I was like, yeah, yeah, I see it because that woman is just gorgeous and she just seems like the nicest freaking person in the world. But yeah, I was like, see, like when you said that, I was like, man, yeah, we are so much more than what we live in the current and in the present. Like we have so much power, and I
Mhm.
think that's what slavery and these systematic things have done to us. It disconnected us from our ancestors. It disconnected us from the the teachings, the pride that we have as a people. And I remember having a conversation with my friend. We were talking about, and this was years ago, about like black people being arrogant. And I was like, why not? Why can't we be arrogant? Why can't we find joy in ourselves and celebrate our wins, considering our wins and our losses we have never been allowed to celebrate our happy things. We always
And
have to be
whenever we
relegated to
do,
slaves.
whenever we do get the opportunity, we excel above and beyond in everything that we do. When
Everything.
you get somebody that really applies themselves, a person of color in whatever field, they're usually going to get to the top of it. And the only thing that keeps them from being recognized at the top of it is whitewashing. It's supremacy. I mean, look at
Mhm.
Hidden Figures.
Oh,
I mean, come
right.
on,
Why
it's a
didn't we
true
know
story.
about that sooner?
Right, true story. But we wouldn't have gotten to space if it hadn't been for them.
Right. Would not have came back and survived without her mathematical genius.
Right. I mean, and hell, even the contributions that Janelle Monae's character made engineering wise,
Yeah,
and then
University.
yeah, and then Octavia Spencer's character, learning how to work the computers and being able to train the other ones to do so.
Exactly.
She single handedly helped them increase their processing power so that they could have the data to do it. It's like literally. Their contributions are invaluable. I mean, think
Yeah.
about the. I mean, and honestly, George Washington Carver created a alternative fuel. Peanuts is an alternative fuel, but of course they don't want to use that because of the fact that it could put oil out of business, gas out of business. They don't care about true advancement. They care about capitalism. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And the same thing with like just drugs in general. Like I feel like as Americans, we would have been the most healthiest society if capitalism didn't get in the way
Mhm.
of instead of the cure being the thing, they want to cure the symptoms, but or treat the symptoms and not give us a cure.
Because if they treat the symptoms, then they're going to keep coming back. So you have to keep
Hmm.
coming back to keep treating the symptoms. If
Right.
I cure you, you don't have to come back to me anymore. So
Exactly.
where's
You're
my money
one and
coming
done.
from?
Where my money? Where my endless amount of income for my generations of children to sustain themselves off the lives and the deaths of many people. Like, whoa, honey, we can go on all day.
We're really good, but I know our time is up.
Right. But the one question I want to ask you just before I get before you go is I ask everybody is when did you fall in love with your blackness?
Hallelujah. Let's see.
Man.
Fell in love with my blackness. Wow. That's a good question. You know, I think I fell in love with my blackness one day when I was in middle school and we had learned a little bit about like Egyptian mythology and things like that. I started doing some research, happened to come across a documentary on History Channel about the pyramids
Hmm.
and how, to this day, or at least at that time, to that day, they couldn't quite figure out how they were made because the stones that were there came from so long far away and were so heavy. They're like, how did they get them this far?
Right.
And I was just like, that's amazing that a bunch of black folks made something that's standing thousands of years still to this day, and they can't even figure out how they put it there.
That's a good point.
So
Man.
ain't we amazing?
Yeah, I feel like that was like a noble fuck you to the white people. Be like, we ain't finna tell you all our secrets.
Period.
Period. On the pyramid, okay, honey. You
Hot period on the
never know.
pyramid.
High pyramid. But that was beautiful. I love this conversation. We got a lot of hot takes, honey.
Oh yeah, yeah. I said some things. I hope y'all ain't gonna be mad at me. You know what? I don't care. Actually, I'm sorry.
I
Come at
said,
me. Y'all
I
can
mean,
find me. My at's Garrell Trinity. If you really want to feel some type of way about it, at me.
I will. We'll make sure. Same goes for me. I'm ready, honey. Just because I feel like as a people, we really have to break a lot of our walls and start rebuilding new ones because our walls have been built by inadequate materials. And we
And
have
they were
to
built by designers, everybody but us.
exactly. And we need to stop taking away from our people with this whole bullshit infighting and start really loving on each other and building each other up. And so I hope that I can do the same for you. I really love your content. I love what you're doing in the city of Chattanooga, and whatever we can do to support, I am here. I want to go to the balls. I want to see this damn, I want to be in it. I want to be where the people are.
Yeah, I want to be what the people are. Yes. Well, if they dropped the trailer for the new Little Mermaid, Halle Bailey as the Little
Yes.
Mermaid, as Ariel. Check that out, y'all.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
gonna see that shit a lot. Little Mermaid was my
agree.
favorite movie when I was a kid. I had a problem. I still want to be a little bit of a redhead mermaid. I ain't gonna lie. I love being a redhead and I want to be in the water all the time. Um
Period.
Also Beyonce. Let's just say this real quick. Are we going to Beyonce? Are we finna find tickets or are we just gonna are we
Okay,
a
so
fan?
I love Beyonce. I do.
Uh-huh.
I'm definitely a part of the Beehive. But the way my bank account set up, you gonna have nah. Wait till I get
Get
my
my
money
money.
right.
Whoa, whoa. Get money, baby. I do love a black sing along. You it makes me happy.
Right. So if it didn't cost three times my rent, I definitely would be up there cheering
Oh.
on the Queen Bee. Talking about some boy,
Mhm.
boy. I'll be all up.
Ooh,
I'll be
what
all
new one? I just want to hear heated because I love that. I love heated. Ooh, yummy, 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 make a bitch heated.
up.
10 to 10, 10 to 10. That's my shit. I can't.
that's all I want to hear her do. But one day, I guess hopefully she does a Netflix special. Maybe we can have that as a watch party.
I
But
know, because Lizzo done like 3 or 4, 5 things on Amazon Prime. Like Beyonce, come on, give us something. I
right,
mean,
definitely should.
Beachella was beautiful, but come on, we need more.
All right, it's been a long time, and we need something to fortify our spirits for whatever's coming next. But anyway,
Right,
I'm
right.
gonna
Because
let you
Rihanna
go.
putting us to sleep with the Super Bowl. We need something to wake us up.
Okay, wait, okay. I thought she was a little low energy too. I ain't gonna lie. I thought she was a little low energy.
But that's what she's always been. Like that's literally
Okay.
how she's always performed.
Oh,
She's always been boring.
okay. I'm gonna be real. Like I would never been a Rihanna stan until Anti, and then I was like, let me go the fuck back, and then I'm like, oh, she's amazing. So I have a late appreciation. So I did not know she was always low energy, Riri. So
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
but I loved it. I was glad to see her. I said, you better be on this stage flying in the air, bitch.
Mm-hmm. With that baby on board, with that love on top. Well, we gonna talk all day.
Right. You better get
Girl, bye.
oh, right. Bye. And let me
Cosigns and
please do this again.
tangents.